Thanks for coming here on a Saturday, guys, to hang out and learn about my new favorite topic, which is Canvas. So this is just going to be, first of all, if you're following along, I recommend going to canvas.kvcc.edu. And that is going to be where you can access Canvas and where your students can access it. However, we also have a new shiny location to access Canvas, which is in your My Valley. If you log in and you look over here on the left-hand side, you will see Canvas has appeared right underneath Moodle. It is not, to my knowledge, yet here. See, I'm gonna impersonate someone. Yeah, there's no Canvas link down here with your My Classes yet. We haven't built anything like that yet. We had to roll out Canvas a little bit earlier than we were expecting to, so IT isn't quite able to get that yet, but we do have a link to Canvas right over here on the left-hand side for you and your students. So this is going to be a bare bones training. What is the difference between Canvas Basics and this Canvas bare bones training? Well, in Canvas bare bones, we are going to be skipping a lot of the grading features. So we're going to be skipping the grade book. We're not going to be talking a whole lot about stuff that you assign a grade to. We are going to be covering assignments a little bit so that you can set something up that your students can turn in. And then I can show you how to grade that, but we're not going to talk about setting up weights in your grade book or anything like that. Okay. So these are the learning objectives. Basically, know the basics, be able to create modules and create resources and activities within those modules. Now, just as a vocabulary word, modules in Canvas are the same thing as topics in Moodle. So if you had topics or weeks in your Moodle class that you're familiar with, we're talking about the exact same thing when we're talking about modules. It's the place where your material lives that your students are going to interact with it. We're going to be able to name and use some of the most common communication resources within Canvas: announcements, files, pages, URLs, which are links, discussions, and assignments. We're not going to be focusing too heavily on the pedagogy of using these things, mainly just how can I use Canvas quickly and simply to get word out to my students, and how can I organize that? And we're going to also cover how to find help and how to resources, again, for both you and your students. So where is Canvas? Like I just showed you, it is at this convenient link, canvas.kvcc.edu. It is also in your My Valley. As a side note, most of your students, if you log into Canvas right now, which I would encourage you to do, you should see empty shells of all of your winter 2020 classes already waiting for you. You should also find in those classes all of your students already enrolled. Now, they cannot see anything. Theoretically, they should not be able to see anything in your Canvas classes until you hit the magic publish button, and I'm going to show you that. But there is a possibility, however, that some of your students, we tried to add everyone automatically, but again, we were not able to have enough time to get our final system in place for adding students, so it may have missed some students. So if you email everyone and say, hey, go to Canvas through your My Valley, go to canvas.kvcc.edu and find my class, and you have a student who is contacting you and they're like, hey, I don't see it, I don't have access. This is how you're going to add students that do not have access. So that's the first thing I want to show you. If you are let's click on Canvas. This is going to take you and your students to your dashboard, and your dashboard is going to be filled with, I'm going to have a lot more than you guys, but these are courses that you are enrolled in, either as a student or as a teacher. I would encourage you to pick one of your winter classes that should have your students in it and just click on it. I'm actually going to be creating a new course for this. Canvas Bare Bones, March 14. Okay, so this is my blank Canvas class. There's not a lot of interesting stuff in here at this point. the first thing I want to show you is how to see who actually has access, and that is going to be over here on this left-hand side. There is a tab. Don't mind me as I zoom in and out. I'm just going to try and focus on certain things. Over here on the left, there is a link that says People. Go ahead and click on that. And that shows you who has access to the course. So right now, this is a course I just created. So this is just me, and I am the teacher. You should be able to see all your students from here. If you have a student who says, you have John Smith who says, hey, you know, I go into Canvas and I don't see anything. Or you sent me the link to your class, but it says I don't have access. You go into People and you look for John Smith and you go, yep, he's right, he's not in there. No problem, you can add him by email. So what you're gonna do, there's going to be a consistent theme in Canvas. Something Canvas does really well is that it's consistent. Over here on the right-hand side, blue buttons with plus signs in the top right corner. That is, blue buttons are often used for like, hey, I'm gonna submit something. Hey, I'm gonna add something. And a lot of plus signs are used for adding new things. So right here in the top right corner, we wanna add something new, and that's a person. So I'm gonna hit the plus people button. That is going to give me this pop-up. Really, all I have to do is type in an email address and hit next. So in this case, it's going to be, if I want to add David to this, I'm going to type dcob@kvcc.edu. And it's already set as a student. I'm going to hit next. It's going to confirm, yep, we found that student. We can add them. Do you want to do that? And you click on the blue button at the bottom that says Add Users. And boom, I now have David Cobb pending as a student in my class. So that is how you're going to add anyone who emails you and says, hey, I can't get in. Okay, so we are going to go through this training as a series of scenarios rather than tool by tool. So first scenario is I want to get an announcement out to the whole class and I want to add an attachment. The next part is going to be I want to schedule an announcement for later. So if you want to be able to schedule all of your announcements for the rest of the class, you could do that at one time and then not have to remember to release that announcement. I know that one of the frustrations about using your roster to email all your students, you can schedule emails, which is nice, cannot add attachments that way. So Canvas is one option for attaching a file and sending it out to your students' emails. Yes? I'm afraid the attachment is going to the roster and doesn't go. To the roster or to Canvas? The email on the roster. Correct. Correct. Roster. Correct. That doesn't work. That's why Canvas is a good alternative because you can add an attachment to Canvas. Yeah, adding an attachment to your roster will not work. You would have to you can either add an attachment in Zimbra up to a certain file size, or you can add an attachment in Canvas and it will email all your students for you.
You can get easy access to all your students' email address from the roster, copy that into the Zimbra suite, and then add the attachment from there.
Yes, David had a good point, which is that you can use your roster to get a quick list of your students' emails, so you don't have to type them in one by one in your Zimbra, and then you can copy and paste it into Zimbra and email attachments that way. That is definitely a good workflow. Okay, so but in order to send an announcement in Canvas, so to go back to my Canvas homepage, you could do it two ways. You can either click on this home button at the top left corner, or like in Moodle, if you're used to using that breadcrumb trail, which thank you very much, we appreciate you not using the back button in Moodle, you can use the breadcrumb trail here to get to the homepage of your class. So either click on this home button or click on the name at the breadcrumb trail. Okay, so this is taking me back to the home page. If I want to send an announcement, I'm going to go over here and click on announcements. We have no announcements so far. Again, we have that consistent, I'm going to go up to the top right corner and we have a plus sign and a blue button that says plus announcement. So that's how I'm going to add an announcement. I'm going to give it a title. So I'm going to be really explicit because the hardest thing for students right now is probably going to be knowing what they need to do next, knowing what your expectations are. So we want to be really clear and really consistent with our expectations. So I'm going to say, you know, instructions for week of, what's next week? The 15th. The 15th. So I might say something like, great job this week, students. Next week, you will do the following. And then I'm gonna sort of bullet point, what are my expectations for the upcoming week? I'm gonna say, read chapter 4 in your book. You know, do the worksheet assignment, watch this video, blah, blah. Okay, so you can, as you can see, I'm doing little bite size, like this is my expectations for the week. It's good to outline what you want students to do and also how you want them to communicate with you, how they're going to turn it in. So then, in order to complete that announcement, I'm just going to go down here at the bottom. Might be hard for you to see if you're sitting at a computer, but a lot of these pages have a blue button at the bottom that is for saving or for, you know, updating something. So I'm going to hit the blue button that says save. And what that is going to do is any students who are currently in my class, it is going to blast an announcement by email out to those students, unless those students change their notification preferences. Fun fact, you can encourage your students to add their phone number if they would like to get these as text messages. You can encourage them to download the Canvas student mobile app and they will get mobile notifications. So really whatever method of communication is, you know, best for them, they can customize that to fit their life. Let's say that I noticed that I need to fix this. I made a typo or I put the wrong date or I want to add additional information. Who wants to take a stab at how I change this? Someone louder. Yep. Hit the edit button in the top right corner. This edit button with a pencil in the top right corner is also going to be another consistent thing you're looking for in Canvas. I'm going to hit edit. And this time I am going to add an attachment. So if I go down here to the bottom, you'll see attachment. I can click on choose file. And I can choose a file from my computer to attach to this announcement. I can also, under options, we're just going to look at the first one, which is delay posting. So if I want to schedule this announcement for later, when I create it, I can choose delay posting. And then I can either type in a date. So I could type in, you know, March 16, 2020. Or I can click on this little calendar icon and I can pick a date from my calendar. So let's say I want this to go out on Wednesday. You might consider doing weekly announcements. You might consider doing an announcement every day we held class at the time that we held class. You could, you know, just be consistent so that students always know, okay, on this day, I'm going to check my announcements. Instructions are going to be there and I know what I need to do this week. And checking in multiple times during the week at the same time each day is a good practice. Okay, I'm going to hit save. And you can see down here in this tiny little gray text, the content of this announcement will not be visible to users until March 18 at 12 a.m. So I'd probably want to put a better time in there than midnight, but that's okay. Okay. So that was my scenario for I want to schedule an announcement and I want to add an announcement with an attachment. Okay, next scenario. I want to post my syllabus, my PowerPoint, or a PDF of the chapter scanned from my textbook, which the library will very kindly do for you. If you contact the library and ask them to, you know, create a PDF of a chapter of your textbook or material from your book, it's covered under fair use for copyright, and they will do that for you and send it to you. So that's a plug there. Okay, so I want to post a file to my students. Now, to be clear, you could absolutely do this over email if that is what you are comfortable with. The problem is that email does not allow very large attachment sizes. I think it's like 15 or 25 megabytes. it's very easy to hit that size limit very quickly. So if I want to post something larger, or I want, I don't want students to have to go digging through their email for it, I'm going to post it to Canvas. So let's head back to our home page. So again, click home in the top left corner, or you can click on the name of your course in the breadcrumb menu. And I also want to make sure that students are going to be able to see what I'm about to do. So like I said, your students will not have access to anything that we do until you publish your course. Who wants to take a stab at how we publish the course? Yeah, that little button in the upper right-hand corner that says publish. So as you can see, it is currently unpublished and the button is red. If we look at the button right next to it, it says I have the option to publish. Now, you feel free to do this right now if you want to, but if you don't want your students to be able to see anything that you're doing right now, then I would wait. So I'm going to publish my course. I'm going to hit the publish and you'll see it'll turn, oh, nope, no, I'm not, because Canvas is kindly reminding me that I don't have any content in here yet. So I can't actually publish it to my students yet. So what do we have to do to add content? So what we need to do is create our first module. And remember that modules are just like Moodle topics. So I can do that two ways. I can either click this giant button that says create a new module, or we can look for that, the plus sign in the top right corner again. So I'm going to hit plus module. I'm going to give it a name. So you could call this whatever you want. You could call it week 1. You could call it week of March 13. You could give it today's date. You could say, start here, right? Being as explicit as possible is definitely encouraged. So I'm going to call this one start here. And then to add it, I'm going to click on the blue button in the bottom right corner that says add module. And this is going to just give me space in which to start posting materials. The next step is going to be very familiar to you if you have ever clicked add an activity or resource in Moodle. So how do you think we are going to add a file to this module? Another pop quiz. Plus sign, yes, we have another plus sign in the upper right-hand corner, but this time it is inside the module itself. So I'm going to click on this plus sign, and then this is basically the same as clicking add an activity or resource in Moodle. And it's going to give me this pop-up. So I'm adding an item to the start here module, and by default it gives me an assignment. So right now I'm adding an assignment. I want to change this. So I'm going to click on this little drop-down menu, and it's going to give me a list of everything that I can add to this module. So my options are assignment, quiz, a file, a page, a discussion, a text header, an external URL, and an external tool. External tool being something like an Elsevier or a Pearson or a Cengage assignment. So what we want right now is a file, right? Because we're going to add a PowerPoint, we're going to add a syllabus, we're going to add something like that. So go ahead and where it says add assignment, go ahead and click on that and change that to file. Now, this window right here, if I had files in my course already, so let's say that this was a course that I had transferred from Moodle or something similar, there would be a list of all my files available in this window. I just created this course, however, so obviously there are no files in here yet. So my only option in this window is to create a new file. So I'm going to click on New File. And then down here, you'll notice these options appear. So I'm going to click on the Choose File button, and that's going to let me pick something from my computer. So I'm going to go to my home drive, just so I have something, a sample file to work with here. I usually have PowerPoints. Okay, I have a Canvas Basics PowerPoint in here that I'm going to upload. I chose my file, Canvas Basics PowerPoint, and I'm going to hit the blue Add Item button in the bottom right-hand corner. And you'll notice what that does is that it adds a line into my Start Here module called canvasbasics.pptx, which is my PowerPoint file. Now, if I am a student, what will I see when I click on this? If this were in Moodle, I would know that if I click on this, it will download. But Canvas has this really nifty feature that I want to point out to you. So this is a PowerPoint that I've uploaded. I can click on it, and Canvas will actually display, as soon as it finishes loading, Canvas will actually display my PowerPoint slides in the Canvas course for me. So if I am a student, I do not have to download the PowerPoint file in order to read it. One limitation with this that we found out yesterday, if you have any media in here, like you have any sound in your PowerPoint file, they will still need to download it in order to access the sound in that PowerPoint file. But if your goal is just to have them read the PowerPoint from your lecture, this is great because they don't have to download it. They don't have to remember where they saved it. Yes, too.
This also probably assists with any user that's using a device that doesn't have Microsoft Office installed on it, that doesn't have the ability to open PowerPoint.
Yes, if someone is using, that's a great point. If someone is using a device that does not have a Microsoft Office or equivalent installed, then yes, Canvas rendering these PowerPoint files for them is going to be helpful. It will do this for Microsoft Word and Excel as well. Yes, another question.
Same for if you have like an animation.
That's a really good question. The question was, if you have an animation in the PowerPoint file, will that show? You mean like animations as in like when I click through the PowerPoint, something appears, or
Yeah,
do you mean like a video?
Like the breakup of Pangea, so that you click on it.
Gotcha. I believe for like animations that normally play when you run your PowerPoint, they would have to download it. So you could encourage that they download it, or you could record a little video of you just clicking through the PowerPoint and post it as a video if you want those animations in there. Your students can download it very easily, and you can download it very easily just by clicking on this download button up here. This is also a great tool for you to find typos. You don't have to download your PowerPoint to check for typos. Okay, so that is how to upload a file. Go ahead and go back home. Again, clicking in the top left corner. Okay, here's a thing that I want to stop and help you notice. And that is going back to that concept of things being published or visible. So my entire course is not published yet. We can actually do that right now. So I'm going to go up to the top corner and say, yep, I'm ready for, David, he's my only student. I'm ready for him to see it, so I'm going to hit publish.
It's the first time I've been the best student in the class.
Okay. But I still want to know, what can my students actually see, right? In Moodle, you had the ability to view your course from the student perspective. In Canvas, that's very easy. It's over here on the right-hand side, and it's this button, whoops, it's gonna collapse, this button over here that says Student View. So if I click on that, it's gonna show me my Canvas course from a generic student perspective. Now, when I click on this, something kind of surprising is going to happen. And that is, there doesn't seem to be anything there. My Start Here module has disappeared. Does anyone have a guess as to why that's not there? I won't leave you hanging. So,
because it's not published.
Very good. The answer was because it is not published. And yes, so in Moodle, you had this concept of published or unpublished. It was called hidden or shown, right? You could, if you had something that you were not ready for your student to see, you could hide it. Moodle, however, works backwards from Canvas. Moodle had everything shown until you decided to hide it. Canvas works the opposite way around. Everything, because your students are already in your course, they're already enrolled, everything that you create will be created unpublished, and you will have to publish it as you create it. I anticipate a lot of people are going to get tripped up by that at first. I know I do, but it's just going to take some practice remembering I'm going to add something, and when I'm ready, I'm going to publish it. So whether an item is published or not, you can see over here on the right-hand side. So we have Canvas Basics. This is published. You can see this little circle with a checkbox in it. Yes?
I may have just misunderstood what you had said, Molly. So
Nope, no problem.
when you said you had said when I add something, then I have to remember that I publish it. Does that mean I have to publish every time I add anything in? Or once it's published, is it okay?
It depends on the item. So notice that like Canvas Basics, that got added published, right? But certain things like the question was like, do I have to remember for every single thing to hit publish, or can I just do everything at once and then be fine? You're gonna have to do each thing individually and just pay attention to this little dot. Sometimes when we add like a page, for example, you'll have two buttons to save it. You have save, and then you have save and publish as a button that you can do. So if you're adding content and want it to be shown right away, that save and publish button is what you're gonna be looking for. And just always, yeah, no problem. And just always remembering to test by using this student view button over on the right, just to double check to make sure, because it is very easy to forget that you haven't published something. Which brings us to another note that even though this Canvas Basics PowerPoint is published, I still couldn't see it. And why was that?
Because there's start here stuff that.
Yes, exactly. So the answer was that start here, my module was not published. So just like in Moodle, if you had a bunch of things in like say your topic week 1, right? And you unpublished the whole topic, then everything in there was going to be hidden, right? And you had to hide or unhide the topic to make everything inside of it visible or invisible. So here, when I click, when I go to start here, I'm going to click on this little bubble to the right that's got a line through it right now. And now everything here is going to be visible. If I go back to student view, which again is on your right-hand side, now I can see my start here module is there, and it's got my Canvas Basics PowerPoint in it. You'll know you're in student view because you have this nice raspberry border around your screen. To leave student view, you just click on the button in the bottom right-hand corner that says leave student view. As a side note, this also puts a test student in your gradebook. You can submit assignments as your test student. You can, test out your work as a test student. You can pretty much, unlike in Moodle, you can actually interact with your course as a test student, which is pretty cool. Just make sure to delete their stuff later because otherwise your students will be able to see it. Okay, so our next scenario is, I want to type some information for my students for them to read by a certain time. So this might be if you are planning to conduct a lot of lessons in like just text format, which is totally fine. You want to write out your lecture for the day and post it for your students to see, totally fine. One way that we could do that is the way that we just covered. So you could type it out in a Word document, and then you could go to the plus sign and add a file, and you could upload your Word document for your students. You may want to say, nope, I just want to add something directly into Canvas as a page. And that's going to give me some additional options as well. So we are going to do this by adding a page. So on my front page, on my home page, sorry, I am going to add another item to my module, and I'm going to do that by clicking on the plus sign. Okay, and I get this pop-up again. I'm going to change this. Instead of assignment, I'm going to click on the drop-down, and I'm going to click on page. I don't have any pages already in my Canvas course. Again, if I had like copied this from another semester, or if I had transferred this in from Moodle, I may have some pages in here already. I do not, so I'm going to hit new page. That's going to give me the option down here to type in my page name. So I'm going to do that. We're going to call this instructions for week of March 16. Again, I'm being super de-duper explicit. You could even say, read this by March 16, or, hey students, read this. Okay, so that has created a page, and notice that it has created it unpublished as per our usual. And it created it, but it's going to be empty. So by default, when you create things this way, Canvas, it's empty. You need to start adding material to it. So in order to add material to our page, we are going to click on it. Okay, so here's my page instructions for week of March 16th. There's not a whole lot of interesting stuff there besides a title. We're gonna go back to our consistent theme of looking in the top right corner, and we're gonna hit that edit button. That process is gonna be really familiar. Okay, so now I have this lovely text box where I can just start typing instructions to students. Wow, Mark was right, the typing in front of people is very difficult. Okay, so I can start typing things in. So this week you will, and blah, blah, blah. Again, giving explicit instructions. The good thing about doing it this way, you can do most of the, I wouldn't say most, you can do much of the relevant features that you can do in like a Microsoft Word, for example. So I can make this text pretty, I can use all of these little buttons up here to make it bold. I can turn it into a title with this paragraph tool. I can change that to a header.
Molly, does this play nice with Word? If you already had it in Word and then pasted it in here?
Yes-ish. I would double check just to make sure that, because when you copy and paste, the question was, does this play nicely with copying and pasting from Word? I would say probably, but I would check it. When you write text into Microsoft Word or in a file like this, any formatting that you're doing, so making stuff bold, the font size, all that, that's all code that exists under the hood of your document. And when you're copying and pasting from Word, you're copying and pasting that code in as well. So sometimes, if you've ever tried to format anything in Word, you know that sometimes formatting gets kind of wonky, and usually it's because you're trying to force it into some kind of format, and the code's not following your intentions as well as you want it to. Yeah.
I did just like draw up a Word document and I changed the fonts and everything like that with the text. When I pasted it in, it kept URLs that were embedded into it, but it took away all the formatting, so it's just
okay.
gonna drop in as regular text.
Okay, that was a good experiment. So we just had someone very graciously test it out, and it did not keep the formatting very well. So it'll keep URLs. So if you have links, it'll nicely keep those links in there for you, but formatting will disappear. Yeah, so this is a good option. I would say if you're going to be sending a lot of stuff to your students and you expect them to be reading it in mobile apps, especially right now, not all students have computers at home. Students won't necessarily be able to go out to the library or whatever to, go use a computer. Their phones might be the best option for, reading the stuff. And the stuff you put in a page is going to be the most, I think, accessible to them on their phones. Okay, so that is how you add a page. If you go down here to the bottom right corner, you can hit save. Or you can hit save and publish. If I hit save and publish, then it's automatically going to publish it for my students. Okay, so here's my page. There's not a whole lot going on. And the next thing I want to get to is I want to send my students links to a website and a video. So if you're handling this by saying, instead of typing up a whole bunch of stuff myself, instead of trying to make lecture videos myself, there's really great stuff out there on the web. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, and I'm going to send my students to really good resources that exist on the web already. It's a great alternative, and it's a great route if you have that option available to you. There's a couple different ways that you could link students to content on the web. One is to use this page that we have already created. So I'm going to, again, using this page, I'm going to go up to the top right, and I'm going to hit edit. Okay, and then notice we didn't cover what all of these little buttons do. There's a math editor in here if you need to add equations, which, by the way, side note, if you have to add equations using this equation editor, it will be accessible to students who are blind and using a screen reader, which is awesome. I don't know any other equation editor on the web that does that. Also, I have the ability to add links. So there's a link button up here. Honestly, the easiest way is to simply paste links in here. So let's say that I want to get an article from the New York Times. So New York Times coronavirus, because that's what's on all our minds. Yeah, let's do this. Coronavirus live updates. Okay, so let's say I want to copy and paste this link to my students. I just went out onto the web. I found the website I want to share with them, whatever that is for you, just go ahead and get there. And then you're going to go up here to the top bar, the URL bar at the top of your screen, whether you're using Chrome or Firefox. I really hope you're not using Internet Explorer. I wouldn't recommend it. Or Microsoft Edge, which is just Internet Explorer with a different name. Then I would go up here and just highlight this, and we're just going to do a copy and paste. So you can either do right click and copy, or you can do Control-C if you are a keyboard user. I'm going to go back into my page. So I just switched tabs here. Here's my coronavirus. Here's my Canvas page, and I'm just going to paste it into this text box. So again, you can right click and paste, or you can do Control-V. And so now when I save this and my students go to this page, they can click on this link and read what I want them to read. Another thing you can do is if you want to get students to a YouTube video, for example, YouTube has a handy plugin right here. So up at the top, I'm going to zoom in a little so you can see it. There's a little YouTube button in red that you can see right here. If you are a Panopto video user, there's an extra step for you. You have to click on this little downward facing arrow, this little V, and you have Panopto video. These are going to work very similarly to one another. You're going to get, yep. You can actually do that with Moodle as well, which is kind of nice. So in both cases, I'm going to do the YouTube one. So let's say I'm going to do YouTube. I don't even know what video I'm going to use yet. I'm just going to click on YouTube. And I'm going to do a search. So let's do TED Talks. Does anyone notice that like TED Talk Day is like in college is like Bill Nye the Science Guy Day in elementary K through 12? Like everyone loves TED Talk Day. Maybe that was just me. Here's where I can, look through all my videos that I might want to add. I'm going to find the one inside the mind of a master procrastinator. That's the one I want to add. I'm going to click on this blue button that says embed. And that is just going to take that video and throw it right into the middle of my page for me. So I can, I can even say, this week you will watch this video. And the nice thing about doing it this way is I could add a whole series of videos. So if I had like 3, 4, 5 videos that I wanted students to watch, I could just add them one right after each other. If I were doing this from Panopto, I would just click on this little down-facing arrow. I would click on Panopto Video, and this would bring up all of the videos in my Canvas course folder.
Love that.
Now be careful with, I can switch folders here, but I would be very careful with that because if you do that, your students may lose access to it. They should only have access to the video that is in your course folder. Okay, but we're not gonna worry about that. Okay, so I'm gonna hit save at the bottom right.
Mom,
yeah.
Can I do a shameless plug for our YouTube if you haven't?
Yes, please do a shameless plug.
We just recently created a YouTube channel that FSC has with videos that we created for Canvas and Moodle. I think there's right now like 11 videos, but hopefully we'll have some more resources up there soon. We sent email out with a link to it, but if you search like KVCC Faculty Success Center in YouTube, I think you'll find the videos.
Okay, I want to have a discussion with my students, either synchronously or asynchronously. Those are very multisyllabic words that basically mean live or semi, not really live, at different times. So synchronously or live conversations with students, I'm not going to cover that super hard because that is covered mostly in our workshops such as David's Zoom workshop, which is another shameless plug, which you can use Zoom for live video conferencing and chat. There is a chat feature in Canvas. So if you wanted to hold live text chat in Canvas, you could do that. The reason that I don't want to hit synchronous or live discussions with students super hard, it's very difficult for students who do not have internet access at the particular time that you are live online with them. So, you know, as a student, maybe I can come to campus every Monday and Wednesday from 2 to 3:50. That doesn't necessarily mean that during this coronavirus, you know, shutdown, I'm going to be able to be in front of a computer with good Wi-Fi from 2 to 3:50 at, you know, the same time every week, right? I would not encourage you to take attendance the same way that you have been taking it. You know, if you're teaching a fully online class, attendance for like financial aid reasons, that e-cars, it's defined differently, right? You just have to have logged in order for you to be counted as having attended, right? So it's not like the student has to be in front of their computer at 2 p.m. on these days. That's just going to be very difficult for some students. So anytime that you have a live conversation, either over Zoom or over chat, I would recommend that you make that video, make that chat, summarize that chat for students to read later. If they missed, you know, the live time, have some kind of summary or have a copy of the interaction available for students to watch later. Now, absolutely give them deadlines, right? Say by Wednesday at midnight, you need to have watched this, but, you know, give them some flexibility with, you know, they don't need to watch it between 2 and 3 on this particular day. Obviously, if you can have students who are there at that time live chatting with you, they will get the most out of it. So that doesn't mean don't do it. It just means have an alternative available. Okay, so that's asynchronously though, so not real time. That would be like email, right? If I have an email conversation with someone, I send you a message, and then a little while later you get it and you answer, and then a little while later I get it and I answer. That is asynchronous conversation. One way you can do that in Canvas, you can send messages in Canvas. First of all, you have an inbox feature over here on the left, which basically does the same thing as your email, so I'm not going to really go into that. But one way to do it within your class is to have a discussion forum. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a discussion by going up here to your module, and we're going to hit that magic plus button again. And this should be coming pretty routine by now. We're going to change assignment to discussion. We don't have any discussion topics already created yet, so I'm going to hit new topic. And we're going to give it a name. I'm going to say response to the video, for example. You want them to watch the video and you want them to comment on it somehow. And then I'm going to hit the blue button in the bottom right that says add item. Okay, so now I've created my discussion. Just like when we created our page, we created it and it is empty. So just like when we created our page, we have to go in and we have to hit edit. So I'm going to click on my response to the video discussion that I just created. And again, we're going to look in that top right corner for an edit button. And here is where I got that text box again. Anything that I could do on that page, I could do right here in this discussion. So I could post YouTube videos. I could, you know, use all kinds of fancy text or equations. I could send them links and say, hey, respond to this. Again, I would give them very explicit instructions for how you want them to respond. So, you know, read this article. Do I still have that copied? Yes, I do. Respond to it the following way. You know, I'm going to add bullets. Response must be at least, you know, 400 character or 400 words, 200 words, 100 words, whatever. Answer the following question. Blah blah blah. Respond to 2 of your classmates' posts. Instead of respond, I would say maybe like hit reply, or maybe reply. Okay. Now, if you give them instructions like this, like reply to 2 of your classmates' posts, you could say like, you know, your replies have to be at least 100 words or something like that. You know, if you get replies that are just like, I agree, or yeah, me too, or like, that was funny. You know, be lenient with them at first, right? But definitely just use that as an opportunity to sort of refine the instructions you need to give your students. That's really going to depend on your class, honestly. You know, your students are not someone else's students. By default, this is not graded, so I'm not going to make it a graded discussion. I'm not going to cover a whole lot of these options. You can put a due date if you would like. You can add an attachment if you would like. The only option I'm going to point out here is because I know people are used to having it, and that is this: users must post before seeing replies. That is really common if there is only really one right answer to your question, right? And then the first student to post gets the answer right, and then no one else can, what does everyone else say, right? So what this will do, users have to post their first response to you before they can see what any of their classmates have said. So once they post their answer to your question, then everyone else's replies will become visible, and then they can reply to other students. But you don't want someone looking at everyone's answer before they post their own. That is if you, that's called a Q&A forum in Moodle, if you were familiar with that at all. Okay, I'm gonna hit save and publish.
Is that a group discussion?
I'm not making it, so groups in Canvas means something very specific. It means that I am separating my students into groups using the groups feature, which we're not covering today. But yeah, you can turn it into, let's say you're doing like, yeah, if you have like 200 students in a lecture hall and you're separating them into group A, B, C, D, E, and you want them to have a group discussion, you could do that. So your students have the ability in their replies, and you have the ability as well. If you click on this, I'm going to zoom in again. There is this, right next to the button with the Panopto in it, there is a media button. And you can, or your students can, record video or just audio. Let's get rid of the webcam. Or just audio replies to each other. So if you have the kind of students who really need someone to speak feedback to them instead of reading it, it's a nice personal touch. We actually had an instructor do this when he broke his arm or hurt his wrist or something, and typing was difficult for him. So he left audio replies to his students' English papers. Okay, we're gonna leave that. We're very close. So I want students to be able to submit work to me. That is going to be the assignments feature, and that has the same name that it had in Moodle. So, whoops. I go back to, I'm gonna go back home. And I'm gonna use, again, this plus sign right here. And right now it's already set, add assignment. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna click on new assignment, and we're gonna give this a name. So this might be like week 1 journal. You can even put the due date if you want, due, midnight, March 16. Except we should probably say 11:59, because if it's midnight, do you mean midnight that day or the next day? Okay, add item. Okay, so now I have my assignment. Just like everything else I've created it empty. I'm gonna click on it. Not a whole lot of interesting information here, but we see there's a lot of places for me to put stuff. There's a due date, there's points, submitting, availability, there's no content. So I'm gonna go up to the top right corner and I'm gonna hit edit. And again, I have this text box. I'm gonna give explicit instructions, submit your, let's say read chapter 4 and answer questions on page 52. Okay. If I want to, I can put in the point value. I'd recommend it, even though we're not really talking about the gradebook today, at least let students, students work for points. So give them an idea of how much this is worth. I'm going to, if you wanted to display it as something other than points, you could change this where it says display grade as. You could change it to percentage, complete, incomplete, etc. if you want to. This is important. So submission type, by default, it's created as no submission. this is something I want students to be able to submit their paper or their response online. So I need to change this. Where it says submission type, I'm going to change that to online submission. Or excuse me, just online. That gives me these options. I'm going to say for this assignment, you are welcome to do a text entry. What that means is that they get a text box just like this one, and they can just type their answer in. You know, if they're on their phone, that means they're going to be able to just type it in on their phone, and it's going to be super easy. Since I'm just having them answer textbook questions, totally fine. Website URL. So let's say you have your students creating a class blog, for example. Sir, yeah.
I'm sorry. So submission type, we should click on online.
Online. If you want them.
That's for mobile.
Yep. Yeah, the question was, if you're having your students submit something via the mobile app, then should you still choose online? And the answer is yes. Okay, so.
For
Yeah.
a website URL, if they're using Google Docs, does that need to be checked? Or if they put that link in the text entry, do both ways work?
Good question. So the question was if they're submitting a Google Docs share link, I believe they could do either text entry and paste the link in there, or they could just do, website URL, yes. So website URL would also be useful if you, if you're having students create websites, obviously that would be a good option. But also like if you have a class blog, I know some of our English faculty have Weebly or WordPress or other blogs that they have their students submit to, that would be an option. Media recording, you could have them record themselves or something and upload media. And then of course file uploads. So this might be like, I want you to answer these textbook questions. You can either physically type it in, or you can, if you're more comfortable opening up a Word document, typing in your answers in a Word document and uploading it, totally fine. Mainly, I just want to do this because I don't want 15 million attachments in my email. Yeah, and then if you want to, you are welcome to add a due date to the assignment. That's just going to help your students kind of keep track of everything they need to do. But again, that's totally up to you. I'm going to click on the little calendar and say this is due on Monday. And then I'm going to hit save or save and publish. If you want to grade this assignment, up here at the top, you click on this in the top right, you click on Speed Grader. This is going to be very familiar to anyone who has used this in Moodle. So the student does not have a submission for the assignment. If David had submitted something, it would appear right here, whether it was a Word document, a PowerPoint, or whatever. It's going to show their submission here. Over here on the right, I could put in a grade, so out of 15. And I can add feedback comments, I can add feedback audio, I can add feedback video, and I can also download those comments if I would like. When I hit submit, David, even though he has not submitted anything, is going to get a 15 out of 15.
I may have been behind times a little bit, Molly, but I was trying to do an assignment as we were going through it, and when I got to assign time, assign to, I put the time and everything in for my assignment. There's a box called assign to.
Yes.
And then there's another box down below saying assign to. Is that just giving me another option for another assignment?
So you hit the plus button, and that's really, really common because it looks like you should, like you fill out the due date and you hit like plus to like add it, right? There's like an add button.
Yes, I did.
Yep, I mean, I've done that too. So let me demonstrate that visually for the poor people wondering what we're doing online. What the comment was, it's a very easy mistake to make because I think it's designed a little not intuitively. It's taking a minute. Okay, so I'm going to go into my assignment and I'm going to go to the top right and hit edit. Because what happened was someone got down to here and they filled out, yep, I'm assigning this to everyone. It's due on this date. It's available at this date. All right, add assignment. Wait, what happened? What happened was you got an additional assign box. So if I X out of this, you start with just one of these boxes. If you want to add an additional one to assign a different due date for different people, I would hit add, and that's really useful. I could type in, let's say David, his dog died or something, so he needs extra time to work on this assignment. So I'm going to start typing his name, and I'm going to say his is due, you know, next Saturday, whereas everyone else's is due on the 16th. No one else will know that he was assigned a different due date. You could also do, if you have the concept of a meta course, which is like multiple class sections combined into one Canvas class. In Canvas, this is called cross-listing. So if you're familiar with the concept of a meta course, that is called cross-listing in Canvas. If you Google Canvas cross-listing, you'll find articles on that. But I could assign different sections, different due dates. So let's say I have a Tuesday-Thursday section. I could have a Tuesday-Thursday due date and a Monday-Wednesday due date. Now, obviously, that that's not quite what we're needing it for at the moment, but just as a future plug, that's going to make cross-listing or meta courses for different sections on different days much easier. Okay, I'm going to hit save. Oh, no sections will be assigned to this item. Go back. I want everyone to be assigned to this item. That was a good warning. Okay, so I'm going to take, let's see, I think the next most important thing is that I want you guys to know how to get help. So for both you and your students, I want to draw your attention to all the way at the far left. At the bottom of the blue left-hand navigation menu, there is a button that says help. That's very important for you and your students because these have a lot of really useful links in them. Now, I have access to more links than you do because I see all of the student and all of the admin and all of the teacher links. If I am a student, so let's hit, I'm going to go back home and I'm going to go to student view because I want to see what a student sees in that help menu. Okay, I'm in student view. This is my class as a student would see it. I'm going to go over here to the left. I'm going to get help. Okay, so here's what a student can get help with. Ask your instructor a question. That's awesome. They don't even need to know your name. Like they can just go here. They can choose their class from the list and start typing and it's going to go to you because you're the teacher of that class. So did we do anything important today? Important? Send. That's gonna go to me. Okay, cancel. Okay. Other things, search the Canvas guides. Canvas guides are the name for the how-to and help articles that you'll probably find if you Google anything to do with Canvas. Moodle, it was very, very difficult to find any help articles on Moodle if you Googled it. Canvas, that is not so. Canvas is very Googleable, which is a great.
Click to get after that? The help?
Yep, help. You will see Canvas Instructor Guides, and also, I believe, search the Canvas Guides. Is that correct? Yep, okay. That's the way it should be. So if I leave, I'm gonna finish covering student view first. Students also have this Ask a Librarian option. This is a 24-hour live chat with a librarian. It's not necessarily going to be a KVCC librarian, although it could be. Librarians across the country volunteer, and this was a feature, this was already available to you. People just don't know about it. I can start a chat with a librarian and they will help me with my research questions. And our librarians, they have a deal where our librarians volunteer to do it sometimes and then other people's librarians volunteer to do it. And it's like this big system, which is really cool. So your students have access to that from the Canvas help menu. Okay, I'm gonna leave student view and go to this as an instructor. So in your help menu, you have this report a problem to IT and your students do too. So if you click on that, filling out this form, this is not going to go to some faceless Canvas employee who doesn't care about you. This literally goes to me and David. So that is going to go into our IT help ticket system. It's also visible by our IT department as well, although they don't handle Canvas questions as much as we do. And what this does is, so subject, description, and how is this problem affecting you? If you fill it out this way, this is better than emailing us if it's a Canvas question. Why is that? It will pull magical Canvas code and data from the page that you were on behind the scenes, and it'll send it to us. So that's, yes.
Sorry, which help menu item is that you click to get to?
Report a problem to IT. Yep. I wanted to give that the name Report a Problem to the Faculty Success Center, but there's only one link for students and instructors, and we don't handle student questions as much. Occasionally we do, but for the most part we don't. But yeah, so filling out that form, that's going to pull magical metadata from the page that you're on. So we don't have to send you questions back like, wait, which course were you talking about? That kind of thing. It's also going to create a ticket in the Canvas ticket system. And why is that a good thing? Well, if there's a ticket already created in the Canvas ticket system, if we can't answer your question, or it is legitimately a bug in the Canvas system that they need to fix, all we have to do is hit a button and it'll go to Canvas. It'll go to Instructor, the Canvas company, and then their support will get it, and within 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, it's usually been pretty quick. They'll get back to us with their support. So if this were you sending an email, then you would have to type it out in an email. We might have to ask for clarification because you forgot to tell us which course you're talking about. Then we'd email you back, then you email us back, then we find out that we can't figure out the answer or it's a bug, then we have to type out a ticket, and then we have to escalate that to Instructor. If you do it this way, and if you encourage your students to do it this way, if it's a Canvas issue, it's going to get your problem solved faster. And then the final help thing I want to point out is this Instructor Guides button or the Search the Canvas Guides button. Instructor Guides, your students don't see it, but if you click on that, that's going to give you the Instructor Canvas Guides page table of contents. There is everything here. So let me zoom in. Analytics, introduction, announcements. How do I use announcements? How do I add an announcement to a course? Assignments. How do I create an assignment? How do I add or edit details in an assignment? How do I delete an assignment or duplicate an assignment? What are all the topics we have here? We have assignments, calendar, chat, collaborations, files. Honestly, the hardest part with using this is just knowing the terminology, right? So we're expecting, emails from people saying like, how do I do this thing? And then we might send you one of these pages, not because we're being lazy, but because these are probably better than what we would have come up with ourselves. If you click on one of these help articles, how do I move or reorder a module, for example? It's got pictures. Like, this is really good documentation step-by-step of how to do each of these things. This is like literally what we would be writing and sending to you anyway. The other benefit is you don't want to, do not like copy and paste these and like print them out and expect them, do it that way. Up at the top, you can see when this was last updated. This was updated on February 19, 2020. Canvas gets updates, and Canvas does not update the way Moodle updates. Moodle used to update in a way where we would have Moodle version 3.4, and then we would have to take Moodle down for a weekend and update the whole thing. And then then we would have Moodle 3.5, and then 4 things would have changed that we would have been answering for a week. And then that's it until Moodle version 3.6. Canvas updates piece by piece by piece all the time. So every month, Canvas makes little changes and little updates, which is going to take some time to get used to because you guys kind of have to think about, next month something in Canvas might be different. But the good news is that Canvas isn't going to have to be taken down for a whole weekend right before the new semester starts. So, there's pros and cons, but the good news is that Canvas, whenever they update something, they will keep these documents, these how-to articles up to date with, and they're really on the ball with it. Like, stuff changes and they update this right away. So that's why I would use this help menu, and I would use these guides on the website rather than just copying and pasting them or printing them out. Yep, and if you use the search the guides, that's going to give you this handy search box. So let's say I have something to do with, I want to know how to do chat. I can type in chat, and it's going to give me search results related to chat, including a video overview. So Canvas has these nice video overviews of different features. If you are a visual kind of learner, we're going to turn that volume down. You can watch these video overviews of how to use, for example, the chat. Yep, I think that is pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. Any questions that I can answer for you guys?